Hello, everybody, and welcome to ZTV Live. Today's Tuesday, September 1st, 2020. Happy New Month. There was a definite coolness in the air last night and this morning, which really felt great. Let's hope it's a harbinger of some cooler temps to come here for the long term and stay. My guest tonight is Gina Cavallaro, a longtime Alexandria resident, journalist, and author, and a brand new addition to our ZTV Live family as host and interviewer. Gina is currently senior staff writer for Army Magazine, a monthly publication for the Association of the U.S. Army. She also happens to be my first cousin. I'm really excited for you to meet Gina, and we'll get to her in just a second. First, of course, I have a few words from our sponsors. Tonight's episode of ZTV Live is brought to you by the great friend of the zebra, Yates Automotive, a family-owned operation that has been serving Alexandria since 1964. Yates is your one-stop shop for all your automotive needs. Yates Automotive is located next to Yates Corner on Braddock Road and Mount Vernon Avenue. For great convenience in errand running, check out Yates Dry Cleaners right next door, an eco-friendly operation featuring free pickup and delivery. Visit yatesservice.com for more information. And if you're feeling hungry or thirsty, check out Lenas Oasis on Yates Corner. This outdoor tented dining room welcomes you with spacious cabana seating, tall palm trees, flowing shears, Moroccan-style lanterns, and greenery all around. The restaurant serves favorites from Lena's wood-fired grill, along with specialty cocktails, beer, and wine, in an immersive tropical atmosphere. Enjoy a relaxing summer weekend brunch, Saturdays and Sundays, from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. If you prefer to dine at home, you can order curbside pickup and delivery from Lena's wood-fired pizza and tap. And right next to the Oasis is Lena's Beer Garden, where you can relax under the lights and umbrellas and among the hedges with a glass of wine, cocktail, or your favorite Port City brew. Speaking of Port City, Lena's Beer Garden serves all their amazing local brews, including new releases, a special beer pairing dinner menu, beer flights, and more. The Beer Garden also has snacks and Lena's famous wood-fired pizzas available to order as well. Socially distanced and sanitized seating is on a first-come, first-served basis. Reservations are not available. An added bonus, the Beer Garden is dog-friendly, so bring your four-legged, furry best friend along. Visit lenaswoodfire.com for all the details. If you'd like to become a sponsor or place an ad with ZTV Live, please let us know. Send us a private message on Facebook or send us an email to ads@thezebrapress.com. That's ads@thezebrapress.com. Thank you so much to Yates and to everybody for viewing in. And I see we have a couple of reactions here. Everybody go ahead and say a hello or let us know you're out there. This show is for you, and we're happy to bring you the things in Alexandria that you care about and that you like to see, good news and all that kind of stuff. And what very good news is the addition of my cousin, Gina Cavallaro. So let's go ahead and bring Gina on the screen. Hi, Gina. Welcome to ZTV Live.
Hi, Susan. It's kind of funny that you're my cousin, and it feels really good to be on TV with you.
It does. It feels really good to be on TV with you. And we are first cousins. Your mother was my father's baby sister. So therefore, I know a lot about you, but I'm sure there's always something new to learn. And I know that you've lived all over the world. You've grown up in different parts of New Jersey and Massachusetts and Puerto Rico. You lived in Africa for a while. What brought you to this little gem of the world that we call Alexandria?
Well, I've been here for 20 years, living south of Old Town off the Parkway. My mother was living here, and I wanted to be closer to her, so I came here to be here and ended up staying and don't have plans to go anywhere anytime soon. I really, really love it here.
Well, yeah, there's a lot to love. And so you're a senior staff writer at Army Magazine.
Yes. I've been writing about the Army actually since, 2001. I started working at Army Times, which was a Gannett newspaper at the time. And later that year, as everyone knows, there were the attacks on the country and the Army went to war. So work got very busy and kind of scary. And I ended up covering soldiers, writing about soldiers. I was first an editor, but then I became a reporter and began writing about their training for war, their deployments, their deaths, their confusion, all the things that soldiers go through. Spent a lot of time overseas with them as well in the war zone.
Yeah, you did. I have some pictures that we can show up of your experience there. When you did, you were so and lauded for the stories that you were able to tell from all these soldiers. Let me start to pull up some of the pictures. Let's start with the Desert Rogues.
Oh goodness, I think
That's
I know
you.
the picture.
That's you sitting, and you're sitting all in the sand, and you have one guy's eating. A couple of the guys are eating, and their weapons are right next to them, and they're all kind of.
I know the picture well. It's that was in 2002 in Kuwait actually, and boy was I green. I mean I was dressed for the part, but I didn't know anything about the Army. I was out in the sand. It was really hot. There were lots of flies, and I just started asking them questions about what they thought about what they were doing. Obviously, it was before they crossed the line into Iraq, which was in March 2003. So this was in October of 2002. And later that day, I ended up interviewing their commander, the battalion commander. Battalion's about anywhere from 800 to 1,000 strong. Mm-hmm. And the story ended up getting a lot of play because he said, yeah, we're training to fight the Iraqis, and it was before they left. So I learned a lot that day.
There's nothing like, baptism by fire, right?
Yes, right.
Yeah. And let's go back, because I love some of these other pictures here, too. There is one of you with General Petraeus.
Yeah, that was up in Mosul in, late 2003, when he was a two-star, way before he became, the commander over there in Afghanistan and then director of the CIA. So he's a really affable, very friendly person. He loves talking to the media. He was reading a story to me that his daughter had written. So we were talking about journalism. Oh. And so his daughter was a journalist. I think, I could be wrong, but maybe in Australia. So he was just showing me the newspaper, and it was kind of I wouldn't say tender moment, but it was a nice chat in his office, which was also his bedroom. It's a giant room in a palace over in Mosul. So
wow,
yeah,
wow. And there's other pictures from that. There's one where you are you're leaning down, with your pen in your mouth, and you're.
Yes, that was also. I think the pictures you have are a selection of pictures from that same trip, and that was just, I was out on patrol with soldiers. It was always so hot there, and when I look at that picture, I just see how red my skin is, and the soldier that I'm with in that photo is a medic, and he's teaching me how to make a sling, which I guess I'm not very proficient at because I wasn't getting it. But anyway, there were so many times spent with just regular soldiers. Petraeus was fun and it makes a good photo, but the troops, the thousands of troops that I met when I was there, was really where the reward was.
Yeah. Well, you just told their stories beautiful, and I can't imagine how hot it was when wearing the your all the protective gear you had to wear. I mean, how much did that weigh? Like 30 pounds or something?
Oh, it was a lot, but they carried so much more than I did.
Yeah.
It was definitely hot. It was difficult. There were times, I think the hottest I ever was in Afghanistan, in Helmand province with the Marines, and that was, I could barely work. I just couldn't. I think my brain was fried. But
oh my gosh.
But you just sort of muck through, and they're all doing it, and they're watching out for you, and you just make it work.
Yep, absolutely. There was another one where I think you're in Balad in the hospital room.
That was actually a soldier getting an appendectomy. But the
Oh,
story was about how the hospital was operating, and that nurse was a first lieutenant, and she was in charge of the operating room and overseeing the surgery. But I think it kind of shows the variety. The hospitals were interesting places to be. There's a lot of gallows humor, but that's because it's one of the most difficult places to be, to watch your fellow soldiers come in, and sometimes they didn't make it, so it was difficult. But most of the patients, that particular hospital was a combat support hospital. But in Baghdad, most of the patients were Iraqi, and they were soldiers, they were policemen, and they were quite wounded and injured in very, very bad ways. So it's a very intense place to be, not for the squeamish, I'll tell you
no.
that.
No, definitely not. There's a sweet picture of you with a man. Did he just give you? Was he an Iranian? He just gave you flowers, or at
No,
the?
no, actually, we that was up on the Iran border, but that was not in Iran. I assure
Okay,
you, that was on the Iraq side of the border, up near
okay,
Sulaymaniyah, which
sorry.
is northeastern Iraq. If I had gone to Iran, I would be afraid to admit it. So
Gotcha.
but anyway, that he was an Iraqi policeman or border guard or something, and he just kind of dared to come up to me and give me the flower, and it was sweet.
It's very
Uh,
sweet, and it's such a beautiful, bold burst of color, and otherwise pretty sandy, terrain.
yeah.
And the photograph was taken by, I believe, your photographer colleague
Oh,
Rob.
yeah, my friend Rob Curtis. He
Mm-hmm.
was the photographer, photojournalist that I was with on that particular trip. So
Mm-hmm.
wonderful photographer. The photos are fun, but this area up in northeastern Iraq, near the Iran border, and this photo was 2003. So we're talking about quite a long time ago. But it
Yeah.
was really at the beginning of operations over there.
Mm-hmm.
It was a vast area, and through binoculars, you could see way across in Iran the people coming on mules and donkeys and horses with their cargo, with
Wow.
families. And,
Mm-hmm.
it's just a border between two
Right.
countries where a lot of trade was going on and probably a lot of contraband, who knows.
Right.
But it was an interesting place to be.
Yeah, it was an interesting place to be, and you did go over there 4 times. Did you travel?
Oh, yeah, probably half a dozen times, and then a
Mm-hmm.
couple of times over to Afghanistan. And my trips were always about 2 months long. I would live with soldiers. They would carve out a place for me to put my stuff. Sometimes I got a room, sometimes I got a cot in the sand. It was
Mm-hmm.
just depending on what kind of accommodations they had. A lot of times they would ask me why I was there. If you were my wife, I would never let you come over here. And I said, well, I'm no one's wife, but even if I
Mm-hmm.
were, I come here because I have a mechanism by which to tell your story.
Right.
And, and that was my motivation. It was exhilarating to go, but definitely there were some tense moments.
Mm-hmm.
I did witness a soldier who was mortally wounded by a
Mm-hmm.
sniper, and I wrote about it. His name was Specialist Francisco Martinez. He was from Puerto Rico, and we had that in common. So that was something I kind of emotionally was ready for, that I would either get hurt myself or that I would see something bad happen to someone else. And at the end of the day, it's war. He was a
Mm-hmm.
soldier in a uniform with a weapon, and he was a target. Yes, it could have happened to me, but I wasn't the target that day.
Yeah.
So,
Thank God.
yeah.
Yeah. Thank God. So, and then you after your time with the Army Times, and then you moved on to the where'd you go next?
Well, actually, after I left Army Times, I worked at Marine Corps Times for a while and covered the Marines. They're
Mm-hmm.
to quote a photographer friend of mine, they're the dirtiest, nastiest, nicest bunch of guys you'd ever want to. And you should be glad they're on our side. They're
Yes.
they're badasses and they're wonderful, but they're not worried about your comfort as much as the Army is. But it was all a great experience. But I left the newspaper to for an opportunity to go live in Zambia with my fiance at the time, and we spent a year there, and I did some writing while I was there and met some people and had a great time in Africa. Then when we came back, I took a job with the federal government with the Millennium Challenge Corporation, where I was working in public affairs and did some more writing there and got to do some more travel there to Central America.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's where you met, I'm sorry for interrupting, but that's where you met John McCain? Is that where that picture is from?
Actually, John McCain was a few years earlier. I met John McCain at an Army Times event where we were celebrating the Soldier of the Year, that we had a contest at the paper. And just such a nice fellow.
Yeah, it's a wonderful picture of both of you.
He stood there for a long time and just let everybody take their picture with him. And, with a picture like that, you remember exactly where you were, exactly what you were wearing, exactly who was there. And it was a nice meeting and a nice event for the soldiers.
Yeah, it really comes through in that picture. It's beautiful.
Yeah. I was quite younger then, so.
Oh, it looks like it could have been taken yesterday. And so Millennium Challenge Corporation.
Yeah, then I was really pleased actually at a certain point to see on Facebook my now boss Rick Mays put a call out and said, "Hey, I need a writer who knows a lot about the Army," and I private messaged him and said, "Well, what's the salary?" Anyway, jump forward, I got the job, and I'm so happy to be there because it's a different kind of writing. It's more education and information. I write about leaders. I write about Army training, and it keeps me in the loop now a little bit closer. It's not really kind of the journalism I was doing before at Army Times. It requires a journalistic skill, but it's more putting news out about what the Army is doing and where they're going with certain programs and things like that. So I'm really enjoying it.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
Lot. And you have a little bit of I'm going to go ahead and do the name dropping thing, but I see there's a nice picture of you here with Gary Sinise.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I stood in line for that one. In fact, I think I bumped some people out of the line so I could get into the line. But he is universally loved in the military. He's so sincere, and he just does good things for people. And he gets famous for it, but he doesn't, he's not a show-off. He just does nice things, and people really like him. Yeah. He is just someone everyone in the military can agree on, and that's really saying something.
Yeah.
So this was at last year's annual meeting of the Association of the U.S. Army in Washington, D.C., which, because of the pandemic this year, is going virtual. Mm-hmm. And just to plug where people can find information about that, it's at ausa.org, and there's a way to register for the event, for the different panel discussions. It's really taking shape nicely, so we're looking forward to doing this completely new thing this year, and I'll be writing a lot about the announcements and news that's made at that event. It won't be the same as being there where you can climb up on the tanks and sit in the helicopters on the floor of the DC convention space, but it'll be fun.
Yeah, it'll be good. Yeah. And, everybody's hand is being forced this year to do things virtually and a little bit differently.
That's true. Look at us. Can you believe we're on TV together?
I know. It's a little crazy. But I with everybody that I speak to that through their work and through their cause or event and what they're going through and the changes they've had to make, I mean, one thing that is flourishing beautifully is creativity and just the, okay, well, we can't do it this way, let's do it this way. And
So true.
and I'm really hearing a lot from people that are talking about their revised plans and different ways of meeting their objectives, that sometimes they're coming up with, hey, this is a kind of actually working better this way, and even though it's kind of a pain, this part of it is really a nice side part, and so maybe we'll continue doing this. Have you had any of those experiences where certain maybe procedures or processes are a little bit easier with it virtually that you might consider doing?
Well, I think the biggest change has been I've been sitting at home working from home since March 18. Everybody remembers the day they started working at home, and I don't
Yes.
think that, I'm happy that our leaders at AUSA have made good decisions about when we should be returning to the office. I think that's the biggest change that I can feel. My work is done a lot on the phone. Some people have wanted to do Zoom meetings, but yeah, I think we're all getting really savvy about how to do this, and it doesn't feel so bad. It feels like it's just what we have to do.
Yep. Yeah.
So it's
Just
nice
taking
not
one.
to wear a mask on the Zoom meeting, so I kind of
yeah.
enjoy that, the
Right.
freedom to be able to talk without a mask. So.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So after your very busy career and all your traveling, you did end up back in here in Alexandria, for which we're so glad. I have one of my favorite pictures, and you know this picture that I'm about to show, and it's of
yeah.
you just showing
think I
how
know the one,
how
yeah.
happy you are to be in Alexandria, and it's you dancing with the El Brio in Market Square Park, and it's just confession. This is a photograph I took for a photography challenge that I'm a part of. But as you can see, Gina is a beautifully expressive dancer, and it's one of my favorite pictures ever.
Well, I was pretty happy because Old Town had just opened, and you and I decided, hey, let's go and see who's open. Let's see what people are doing in Old Town, hanging out. And boy, was it busy. It was quite a while. Well, what, a couple of months ago or so?
It was, I believe it was like mid-June, right? It was after, it was like still kind of in phase one of reopening, and there was no indoor seating yet. Everybody, all the tables were open on the lower part of King
The
Street
tables
down
were
there.
open, and we were just, and it was a beautiful evening. It was nice and cool, and everybody was out.
Yep.
Not everybody was wearing a mask, but it was okay, because we were wearing our masks, and we got a little takeout drink, and I
We
think that's
did.
when the fun started.
We did,
with
that's right.
pictures.
But even the people that weren't wearing masks, for the most part, were, everybody was in the street, so everybody was kind of keeping their distance anyway,
It
or
was
sitting in the
really,
park,
really,
and yeah, and
yeah, I
everybody.
really enjoyed it.
Well, I'm thrilled to have you join the team. I know I've often thought you'd be such a good fit on ZTV. You'd bring a great energy, and you're such a wonderful storyteller. And I think that is something that everybody enjoys, is storytelling. So do you have any, plans or what you'd like to do as host or overall on, anything in mind?
I think that you hit the nail on the head. Everybody has a story. I know that I'm really looking forward to my debut next week as an interviewer with Monty Durham. Now, Monty is a wonderful interview. It would really be hard to do a difficult interview with him. He's charming. He's got great stories, and he is just, he puts himself out there, and there's so much to like about him. And I'll be excited to talk with him about his new salon. It's really the talk of the town at the moment, at least down in Old Town. And for any person, man or woman, who wants to look better, I would think this is going to be kind of a place to go. He's really, really into it. But you said something important, and that is, even if someone is shy or thinks they don't have a story, everybody has a story. And so I think I'm looking forward to ferreting out some of those people. Even if it's some of our business owners or people doing good things for other people, someone who might just have an interesting home business. It doesn't matter. I'm kind of open to everything.
Terrific.
I really enjoy talking with people and then helping them tell their story. And I think that's
Yep.
what I like about writing too.
Yeah, I agree. And I agree it applies to writing as well as interviewing. Speaking of interviewing, there are so many interviewers on TV and on the radio, and some of them are better at it than others, in my own opinion. I know who my favorites are.
So,
Do you have any favorites, and who would that
oh,
be, and why? It could be more than one person.
oh, good question. The first person who comes to mind is someone who's known for being a bit raunchy, but he is Howard Stern. He is
Oh,
a great
he,
interviewer.
he is. I totally agree.
He's a he's a really talented interviewer. He gets into it. I mean, he does throw the raunchy questions in there because it's Howard Stern after all.
Yeah.
But I really enjoy. I think he does gripping interviews. The other one I would have to say, and I've never met either of them, Howard Stern or Terry Gross. She's
Oh.
another favorite. And I think the
Very,
secret,
very different style.
yes, very different styles, but they've both been at it for so long, and they have a true interest in getting the really good stuff out of people and asking what end up being tough questions about people's past or things they may not be proud of or happy about. Um, and they're both on the radio. I don't watch either of them. I don't know if Terry's on television, but radio is my favorite medium. I love the theater of the mind. I love that you can do radio and people are in their cars, and that's that turn it up moment.
Yeah, I
It's that
agree.
moment, and I do it all the time. I mean, I'm glued to the radio all the time.
Yeah, and you got your start in radio and as a communicator, right? In communications.
Well, that's right. I did. Susan, I have no formal education. I squeaked through high school with a D way back in a
D
year we won't
stands for
talk about.
diploma, you know.
D stands for do good things.
You
So,
did it.
yeah. So and then I just kind of bumbled along. I ended up being a secretary and then for a long time. And I don't know that I was that good at being a secretary, but it paid the bills and it got me through my 20s. And then my last job as a secretary was with a lobbying firm on Capitol Hill. And it was a Monday morning, and I walked in. My boyfriend had just broken up with me, and my boss said, "We have to talk." And I said, "Okay." And so I went into his office. He closed the door, and he said, "This isn't working out." And I was like, "You know what? You're right. It's not working out. I'm not doing a good job. But if you would please keep me on board until you find somebody, then I can look for something too." So he agreed to keep me on board, and then that's how Puerto Rico came up. My mother said, "Look, why don't you go live with your father in Puerto Rico and see what happens?" So I went down there, and it was the 500th anniversary of the discovery of the New World. This is 1992. So from 1492 to 1992. And in San Juan, there was this big sailing regatta with ships from all over the world. So he gave me a microphone, and I'm like all depressed and like I just got fired and no boyfriend. But he said, yeah, we'll talk about that later. But listen, here's a press badge, here's a microphone, go out and talk with people and get man on the street interviews. And that is how I started my journalism career. And
I
I
love it.
just took to it like water.
Yeah.
Then when they had the parade of sail, where all the ships were heading up north to New York, I had a cell phone that was like this big, and I was at the big fort on the promontory, El Morro, and we were going to do these relays. 1992, cell phones weren't that common, but we were
That
going to do
was like
live
get
broadcasts.
smart, right? I mean, it's like carrying a suitcase around in your hand.
Right, every shoe. So we were going to just do a relay. What were we seeing? And I was really nervous. So I says to myself, well, just do whatever Diane Sawyer would do. What would she say? And so I described the scene, and for a moment, I was Diane Sawyer, and it felt so good. And so it just went from there. And he put me on the radio. I had my own programs. I did live programming. I did a little bit of news. It was great. And I've just had a great time in journalism ever since. It's a wonderful career, a wonderful career.
Yeah.
Difficult these days, but very good.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. Well, and you certainly have made the most of it. My goodness, you've been all around the world and back, and always with a story to tell, which is a key to communicating and relating to people and making it interesting for them. So that's really great. In that. I love that your dad was just like, here, and I can't believe that your boss, my God, were you feeling like deja vu and the boss was like, this just isn't working out? And you're like, I just had this conversation with my boyfriend. What the heck?
It was kind of like, it was Monday when forget it. It was the worst situation. But, that's the thing. I guess that's my moment of, boy, I turned things around, because I don't think there's a real true moment in my life that I said, this is where I want to go. This is what I'd like to do. And I'm so in awe of people who know what they want to do. How many soldiers I've spoken to over the years who say, oh, I knew I wanted to be in the Army. And then once I got in the Army, I knew I wanted to be Special Forces. Like, they just have a path. Or I wanted to be a medic, or I wanted to be a pilot. And that's so squared away. And I think I've just been like this little thing bouncing along, having really wonderful luck and fortune all along the way to be where I've gotten to.
And a little talent and a little bit of, what, you got spunk, right? I mean, because you have to be able to step up to the challenges that, were kind of thrown, or that you faced at all these different points along the way.
True. It's true. And Susan, I mean, you've been a big inspiration. You're so motivated. You do so many things. So I have to give you that little shout out.
Go on.
Go on. No, seriously. I've been fortunate to have the life I had, and I've really enjoyed journalism. It's a difficult field now. Anybody who's listening who thinks they want to go into it, I would never dissuade anyone from doing this line of work, but it's really changed from when I was fortunate enough to do it. And another piece of advice I would say is, if you didn't go to college and you didn't have a bunch of professors forcing you to read things about journalism, read other people's work. See what works for you. Learn how to tell stories by reading the best people. So that would be my little tidbit of advice.
That's fantastic advice. I mean, it's fantastic advice just to, and for people who want to write, the best advice is just read. If you want to become a better writer, read more, in addition to writing more. But reading is just so fulfilling and enriching on so many levels. So I think that we are actually just about through with our wonderful introduction. I'm so happy to introduce you to the ZTV audience, and I know you're gonna do great things. We're obviously looking really forward to your interview next Wednesday, September 9th, with Monty Durham, opening on the eve of his opening of his new Salon Monty in Old Town. Was there anything else you wanted to add about what you're doing now, what you're looking forward to, or say hello to the audience?
I want to thank Mary Wallen for including me in the team. I feel really, really special becoming a member of the team, and I'm looking forward to contributing some great stuff to what's already a wonderful show.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah, it is a really fun show, and to all the audience out there, I would encourage you and ask you to let us know stories that you know about that we would love to go out and cover. We can cover it through the safety of Skype, or we can cover it through safety on scene, social distancing with masks on too. We have remote capabilities as well. So we are, as things are opening up a little bit more, we are looking forward to, and I think you are as well, Gina, looking forward to kind of going out and finding those great stories that are out there.
Absolutely.
because we know that they're out there and we want to bring them in. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and thank you so much for taking the time out for us tonight, and we will look forward to seeing you again next Wednesday.
Okay, thanks a lot, Susan, and thanks to everyone for tuning in.
Sure thing. Thanks, Gina.
Bye.
Okay. Bye bye. Well, that'll do it for our show tonight. Really great to get to know Gina. I know you're all going to love her like I do. Tomorrow night, Jane Collins is here with her Ask 10 Questions program, and Jane's guest is going to be Stella Hanley of the Animal Welfare League in Alexandria. So we're really looking forward to that. And then Virginia Amos will be back with her show on Thursday night. So we will see you then. And again, bring us those stories. We want to hear about them. Send us the information and you could see it on the next ZTV Live. So until we meet again, remember to be kind and be the good news in someone's life.